Hello there, how are you? My name is Lois Gidiga. I'm an RCIC and I am based in Calgary, Alberta. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome and subscribe. If you're returning, you're my fan, thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate that. So kindly just share my video, and if you have not subscribed, please subscribe and hit on that notification button so that you do not miss out on our weekly videos. So today we want to talk about a class that I've been promising you about. It's the Federal Skilled Trades Program. And this program, it's a program for skilled workers who want to come to Canada as permanent residents based on their qualifications in a skilled trade. So mostly this is for technical skills, right? So what are the minimum requirements for this class? And how do we go about qualifying or checking our qualification? Because as I said, most of Canadian immigration is merit-based. So you're going to be eligible, you're going to be admissible for you to be able to come to Canada through any class. So I'm just going to mention that this class, it falls in the economic classes. So just like the Federal Skilled Worker Program or the Canadian Experience class, this class picks candidates through the express entry. What that means is it's a point-based system, and you need a certain number of CRS points to meet to be able to be picked out of the pool. And in October, when they picked out the candidates for this class, they picked as low as 357. We know for the Federal Skilled Worker Program right now, it's 475. So with 357, that is quite low. So you stand better chances as long as you have the relevant work experience and training. You stand better chances to be picked out of the pool through this class. Okay, so let us see the minimum requirements. And when I say minimum, I'm just going to be talking about the minimum requirements. You can go over and beyond the minimum requirements, and that gives you the better chances. It's going to improve your points in the express entry, so it improves your chances of being picked out of that pool. So the first thing is language. And as you can see, language here is a little low, and I'll be telling you maybe just what you need to be more competitive in that pool. The language needed here is either English or French, and you can always earn bonus points. If you speak English, you can always earn bonus points for French. So for English, you're going to need a CLB 5 in speaking and listening, and a CLB 4 in reading and writing. And as I said, this is the minimum. So if you get a CLB 7, CLB 8, CLB 9, that means you're going to be getting more points. Okay? For French, you will need an NCLC 5 for speaking and listening, and an NCLC 4 for reading and writing. Okay? So for education, there's no minimum requirement for education. However, it's good if you have a certificate or a diploma or a degree. As I said again, the higher your education, then the higher your points. So what you're going to need to know, and we've said about this in the previous videos, if you're schooled in Canada in a publicly funded institution, then you're not going to need an ECA. But if you're trained abroad, if you went to school abroad, then you're going to need an ECA, and that is an education credential assessment. We've said you can always get that done at WES. We have other organizations that do education credential assessments, but just my experience, I feel like WES I'm not trying to market WES here, but it's easy to deal with WES from my experience. Okay? Yes. You are also going to need qualifying work experience. What do we mean by qualifying work experience? You must have at least 2 years of full-time work experience or equal part-time in a skilled trade Again, it's in a skilled trade within the 5 years before you apply. And to be able to meet the job requirements, that trade is set out in the National Occupation Classification, that is in the NOC, except for you needing a certificate of qualification. You are also going, and I'm going to talk about that, the certificate of qualification, but you're going to need to have the qualifying work experience, okay? You're also going to need to either have a job offer or full-time employment for a total period of 1 year, or if you don't have a job offer for 1 year, you're going to require to have something called a certificate of qualification. I'm also going to be talking about the certificate of qualification. But for now, we want to focus on the skilled work experience that you need, because the skilled work experience for this class, for the Federal Skilled Trades Program, is quite particular. It's only in a few NOCs. So it's in major group NOC. So we're talking about the NOC. It's in major groups 72, and 72 it's about industrial, electrical, construction trades. It's also in major group 73, and that is about maintenance and equipment operations trades. It's in major group 82, and those are going to be supervisors and technical jobs in natural resources, agriculture, and related production. And major group 92, and that is processing, manufacturing, and utilities supervisors and central control operators. It's also the work experience can also be in minor groups, that is 632, that is chefs and cooks, or minor group 633, which is for butchers and bakers. Mostly the major groups NOCs, that is 72, 73, 82, and 92. Those ones are all in job skill type B. Okay? Yes. I'm not going to talk more about this because there's more about a NOC and what they're going to be looking for. But you should know that to be qualifying in a certain NOC, you must have at least performed the duties that are set out in the lead statement of that NOC code. Okay? All right. Yes. So when you're also checking your NOC, I'm going to recommend that you make sure that you're using the right NOC version. So make sure you're using the NOC version of 2016. Okay. Remember I said that you are going to need to have a job offer, a valid job offer for at least 1 year, or a certificate of qualification. And this certificate of qualification, this is what I want to talk about. What is a certificate of qualification? It's also called qualification certificate. So it's a certificate of qualification or qualification certificate, and it's issued by a Canadian provincial or territorial or the federal authority. Every province or every territory, it's different. So what you're going to find is that education in Canada is controlled by either a territory or a province. So they are going to set out their requirements, and they're going to set out their certification and exams. Okay? So this is a certificate that proves that a person is qualified to work in a certain skilled trade. So we are talking about the certificate of qualification, because remember we've said you're going to need either a job offer or a certificate of qualification. So this certificate of qualification, it means that that province or territory has assessed you and you have passed a certification exam, and that you meet all the requirements to practice in that trade in that province or that territory. So as I said, every province is going to be different. So you're going to require different certifications if you're going to be working in different provinces or territories. Okay? So Yeah, I said it's either called a certificate of qualification or a qualification certificate, right? So how do you go about getting a certificate from a province or a territory? In most times, in most times, uh, you are going to have to travel to that province because every province assesses their training in their own way, okay, or territory, that is not just a province. I'm also talking about territories. So they are going to assess your training or your trade experience and skills and decide if you're eligible to write an exam to be certified in that province. So if you're certified in Alberta, if you want to be certified in Alberta, you're going to need to come to Alberta to sit a certification, to be assessed here, and then get the certification, go through the certification exam for you to be certified to work in Alberta. At times, if you're certified to work in Alberta, you may not be certified to work in BC. So should you at any one time, and I'm not saying it's always the case, but should you at any one time require to go work in BC, you may require to do certification in BC. Okay, so you're just going to have to be very careful about that. So as I said, you're going to need to visit that province or territory to write a certification exam. If you do not have that, you're going to need an employer who is going to give you training and work experience before writing an exam. So it's a little tricky getting the certificate of qualification, okay? So it's always easy if you're abroad, and especially if you're from a visa requiring country. Some of these countries, you don't require a visa to come to Canada. So it's very easy for these people to come here and do a certification. But if you're coming from a visa requiring country, you may need to have a job offer because you may not always get that visa to come sit the certification for that skilled trade. Okay, so what does that mean? And the reason I just want to mention this is a lot of people reach out to me and they tell me I'm a chef, I'm a truck driver, I'm a mechanic, you know, all those trades, and they are all good trades. But what matters for you to be certified in the Canadian style, you know, it's going to be a rigorous exercise, and you're going to be competing with people who are trained here in Canada, who've gone to school for years, who've become journeymen and stuff like that. So you're not going to come and say, you know what, I finished high school and then I worked in my uncle's mechanic shop. That is how I gained my training and experience. You're going to require to have gone to school to earn that trade. That is not the trade that you earned from watching your uncle or your neighbor, you know, or you gained that experience on the job. Yeah, so you are going to require to be trained in that trade for you to be able to write a certification exam here in Canada, or even get employed here in Canada. And most of these trades are actually regulated. They'll be regulated either by the province or the territory or by the federal government. Okay? Yeah. So always know whether you are really trained. And that is why, especially in countries like my country, people do not put a lot of effort on trades, which is quite unfortunate. Everybody wants a degree, which is really good. Everybody wants a degree, everybody wants a master's. But we neglect trades so much, and the demand for these trades skilled jobs is so high. I can tell you among the high income earners here in Canada are people who are doing the trades jobs. So if you're certified, if you're qualified and certified as a journeyman, you know, if you have that qualification, you could be making a really good amount of money from that skilled trade. And as I keep telling people, there's no shame, because I know that is a problem with people from my country and maybe Africa. I'm not going to say Africa at large, but I know in Kenya, people shun so much people who are doing trades. You know, there's no shame in Canada. What I really like is that every job is dignified. Whatever you do, as long as you're doing an honest job, whatever you do is dignified, and you're going to be able to earn a good living, an honest living. And trades is one of the best ways that you can earn a really good living, and it's also a really good way to immigrate to Canada as a permanent resident. Okay, yes, so that is all the, oh yeah, we also before I forget, you're also going to be admissible. You need to be admissible always. In every class, you're going to need to be admissible. And that means health-wise, financially. And when I say financially, you're going to need to show proof of funds unless you have a valid job offer or you are already in Canada and you're legally working. So you're going to need to show that you have proof of funds for you to settle here in Canada. Okay, yes, so I don't think I've left out anything. If I left something out, I am going to be adding that on my Facebook post. Okay, so thank you so much. Keep it here. I'm making another video about inadmissibility. What is inadmissibility? So stay tuned, keep it here, and thank you so much for joining me this evening. Okay, thank you. Bye now.